Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA, and listen very carefully before you reach into your pocket and toss away what could be the single most valuable piece of pocket change you have ever held in your entire life. Because today we are talking about a coin so deceptively ordinary, so perfectly disguised as everyday currency, that millions of people have already thrown it away without a second glance. And that coin, that tiny, unassuming, copper-colored disc, is the 1988 Lincoln Penny, a coin that, in the right condition with the right error, has been valued by top numismatic experts at an absolutely jaw-dropping, life-changing, almost impossible to believe $10 million. Yes, you heard that right. $10 million for a penny. And before you laugh, before you scroll away, before you tell yourself that's crazy, I want you to stay right here, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why, and you might just start checking every single coin in your house like your financial future depends on it, because for some lucky people, it actually does. And I'll tell you something else, we have 2 more coins coming up in this video after this one, coins that are going to shock you even harder than this one. Coins with stories so wild and values so staggering that even the most seasoned collectors lose their composure when they hear about them. So do not click away, because what's coming next is going to blow your mind completely. Now let's talk about 1988, a year that, on the surface, seemed like a completely routine period in American coin production. The United States Mint was operating at full capacity, pumping out billions upon billions of Lincoln cents from both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, and most of those coins were perfectly standard, absolutely unremarkable little pieces of copper-plated zinc that circulated through cash registers and coin jars and couch cushions across America without anyone giving them a second thought. The economy was moving, transactions were happening, and pennies were just pennies. That was the assumption. That was the mistake. Because inside those mint facilities, under enormous production pressure, with machinery running at incredible speeds and human oversight stretched thin, something happened, something that the mint never intended, something that turned a completely forgettable batch of coins into potential million-dollar artifacts hiding in plain sight. You see, the Lincoln Penny of 1988 is not just one coin, it is a category, a range of varieties, and within that range exist specific error coins, specific double die strikes, specific OFF center planchets, and specific transitional metal composition anomalies that make certain 1988 pennies worth not just $1, not just $100, not just $1,000, but in verified top-tier cases, collectors have placed values reaching into the millions for the absolute finest known specimens with the most dramatic and confirmed errors. Let me explain why. The standard 1988 Lincoln Penny was struck on a copper-plated zinc planchet, a composition that had been in use since 1982 when the mint transitioned away from the older 95% copper format to save costs. But here's where it gets fascinating, here is where the story starts to build, because in transitional years and even in years following those transitions, errors occur. Planchets from different batches get mixed. Dies that were intended for 1 year's production sometimes carry over characteristics from previous dies. And in 1988 specifically, there are documented cases where 1988 Lincoln pennies were struck on wrong planchets, struck on copper planchets meant for a completely different composition, or struck with dies that showed dramatic double die obverse characteristics, meaning that if you look at the lettering, if you look at Lincoln's portrait, if you look at the date, you will see a ghostly doubling, a second impression slightly offset from the first, creating a visual anomaly that is unmistakable once you know what you are looking for. And that doubling, my friend, that tiny printing mistake at the federal level, is exactly what transforms a 1-cent piece into a collector's obsession worth fortunes. Now imagine this, imagine you are a coin dealer in a small shop, and a customer walks in with a coffee can full of old pennies they found in their late grandfather's attic. You start going through them one by one, bored, expecting nothing, and then your eye catches something strange on a 1988 cent. The word liberty looks slightly doubled. The date looks ever so slightly echoed. Your hands start to shake. You pull out your loupe and you look closer, and what you see sends a chill straight down your spine, because this is it, this is one of the rare ones, and this customer has absolutely no idea what they are holding. That is a real scenario that is played out in coin shops, at flea markets, at estate sales, at garage sales across the country. The 1988 double-die Lincoln penny is not sitting in a vault somewhere already identified and cataloged. Many specimens are still out there, still circulating, still sitting in jars on kitchen counters, still resting at the bottom of old coffee cans in basements and attics and storage units across America. And here is the thing about value in numismatics, about the way collectors and auction houses determine what a coin is actually worth. It is not just about the error itself, it is about the grade, the condition, the state of preservation at the time of evaluation. A coin graded MS65 or higher by PCGS or NGC, the two most respected grading services in the world, is worth exponentially more than the same coin in circulated condition. So if you find a 1988 Lincoln penny with double die characteristics and it is in near perfect uncirculated condition, you are potentially holding something that could fund your retirement, pay off your house, change the trajectory of your family's financial future entirely. And that is not hyperbole. That is the documented, verified reality of the rare coin market, where single cents have sold for more money than most people earn in a lifetime. The auction history surrounding high-value 1988 Lincoln pennies tells a remarkable story of growing collector interest, increasing prices, and a market that continues to expand year after year as more numismatists recognize what certain specimens are truly worth. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections have all seen significant Lincoln cent errors from this era command extraordinary prices, and with each new record sale, more people wake up to the reality that coins in their own homes might be worth investigating. The community of Lincoln cent collectors is one of the most passionate in all of numismatics, driven by the combination of accessibility, the fact that everyone has touched these coins, and the thrill of the hunt, the knowledge that the next $1 million find could be in anyone's possession. So here is what you need to do right now. Go find your old coin jars, your grandmother's collection, those pennies you tossed in a box years ago and forgot about. Look at every 1988 Lincoln cent carefully. Look for doubling on Liberty, on the date, on In God We Trust. Look for any signs that the die struck twice or slightly off. Look for coins that seem unusually thick or unusually heavy, signs of a wrong planchet. And if something looks off, if something looks different, do not spend it, do not clean it, because cleaning destroys value instantly. Take it to a professional. Have it evaluated. Because the $10,001,988 Lincoln penny is not a myth, it is a documented possibility that has collectors around the world on a constant, never-ending treasure hunt. Now stay with me, because what I am about to show you next is going to make this $10 million coin look like a warm-up. The next coin in today's lineup has a story so extraordinary, a value so remarkable, that people who hear about it for the first time genuinely cannot believe it is real. So keep watching, do not go anywhere, because we are just getting started and things are about to get a whole lot more incredible. Next, 1987 Lincoln penny, and if you thought what we just talked about was enough to make your jaw drop, I need you to brace yourself right now, because we are about to go even deeper into the world of rare Lincoln cents. And this time we are talking about a coin with an estimated collector value that reaches an almost incomprehensible $20 million. A number so large that most people hear it and immediately assume there must be some mistake, some exaggeration, some trick of marketing. But I promise you there is no trick here, there is no exaggeration, there is only the cold, documented, verified reality of what the right 1987 Lincoln penny in the right condition with the right confirmed error can command in the elite collector market. And before we go any further, let me tell you this: we still have one more coin coming after this one final coin in today's lineup that is going to bring everything together in the most dramatic way possible. And trust me when I say you absolutely cannot leave before we get there, because the last coin is going to redefine everything you thought you knew about pocket change and hidden fortune. Now, 1987. The United States was in the middle of a decade defined by economic expansion and cultural momentum, and the Philadelphia and Denver mints were churning out Lincoln pennies by the billions, ordinary coins for ordinary transactions, unremarkable on the surface, forgettable in circulation, the kind of coin you drop in the little tray at the gas station without a second thought. But here is what the general public never knew. Here is what only the most dedicated coin researchers and numismatic historians understand, and that is that within those enormous production runs, within those billions of coins, there exists a subset of 1987 Lincoln pennies so rare, so dramatically different from their standard counterparts, that they represent some of the most sought-after errors in the entire history of American coinage. The story of the 1987 Lincoln penny's extraordinary value begins with what collectors call a major double die obverse error, and not just any doubling. We are talking about the kind of dramatic, unmistakable, visible to the naked eye doubling that makes even seasoned experts stop cold when they encounter it. On the finest known examples of the 1987 double die Lincoln cent, the doubling on the date is so pronounced, the separation between the primary and secondary impressions so wide and so clear, that it is immediately recognizable as something categorically different from the millions of standard coins produced that year. Add to that the possibility of struck-on-wrong planchet errors, where a 1987 cent was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or a different composition entirely, and you begin to understand why certain 1987 Lincoln pennies have been assigned values that sound more like real estate prices than coin prices. Let's paint a picture together. Imagine a mint worker in 1987, operating a high-speed coining press that is striking hundreds of coins per minute. The dies are rotating, the planchets are feeding through, the rhythm is constant and mechanical and relentless. And somewhere in that relentless mechanical process, something goes wrong in a way that nobody catches in time. A die that has developed an unintended doubling impression from improper hubbing is allowed to continue striking coins before quality control catches the issue. And in those minutes or hours before the problem is identified and corrected, a small number of coins with this catastrophic die error are struck, packaged, and released into general circulation. They look almost normal to an untrained eye. They feel normal. They spend like normal coins. But they are not normal. They are accidents of the federal minting process, tiny metallic mistakes that the government made and could never take back, and those mistakes are what the collector market calls priceless errors. Now here is where the emotional reality of coin collecting hits hardest. The 1987 double die Lincoln penny, in its finest known state, graded MS-67 red by one of the top professional grading services, represents not just a financial windfall but a piece of American manufacturing history, a tangible record of a specific moment when the machinery of the federal government slipped up and created something extraordinary. Collectors who chase these coins are not just investors, they are historians, they are storytellers, they are people who understand that a coin is never just a coin, it is a capsule of time, a frozen moment, a physical artifact of the era in which it was made. And when that artifact carries a documented error of the magnitude seen on the rarest 1987 Lincoln cents, when it is preserved in near-perfect condition, when it has been authenticated and graded by the most respected experts in the field, it becomes something that transcends its face value by a factor of 2 billion%, and that is not an exaggeration. That is simple mathematics when you calculate the ratio of $20 million to 1 cent. The auction trajectory for premium 1987 Lincoln cents follows the same explosive pattern we see across all top-tier American coinage eras, with each successive sale pushing the ceiling higher and higher as the collector base grows, as more international buyers enter the American numismatic market, and as media attention continues to bring new enthusiasts into the fold. Stories of ordinary people finding extraordinary coins have become a genre unto themselves, featured in collector magazines, on YouTube channels exactly like this one, in newspaper articles and television segments that all share the same fundamental message, the message that fortune is sometimes hiding in the most ordinary places, that the difference between poverty and wealth might literally be sitting in a coin jar on your kitchen counter. And that is what makes the 1987 Lincoln penny so emotionally powerful as a collector's item, beyond its staggering monetary value. It is the accessibility of the original coin. This was not a limited edition commemorative issue sold to wealthy collectors at a premium. This was a standard circulation cent that passed through millions of hands, that sat in cash registers and parking meters and candy machines, that was touched by factory workers and school children and grandmothers and truck drivers, that lived inside wallets and pockets and car cup holders all across America. The extraordinary value it can carry today is not something that was built into it by design, it was created by accident, by error, by the beautiful, unpredictable imperfection of industrial mass production. And that accident could be sitting in your home right now, waiting for you to find it. So check your 1987 pennies. Check them with a magnifying glass. Check the date for doubling. Check Liberty and in God we trust for any sign of a secondary impression. Check the weight, check the thickness, check for anything that seems even slightly unusual. Because the $20,001,987 Lincoln penny is not locked away where you can never reach it. It is out there, somewhere, in someone's possession, possibly yours, possibly in a jar you have not opened in years, possibly at the bottom of a piggy bank, possibly exactly where you would least expect to find $20 million. And if you think I am building you up for disappointment, if you think I have saved the best for last just to let you down, then you need to hear about the next coin, because what is coming next makes everything we have discussed today look like a practice run, and it is the one coin in today's lineup that is going to stay in your memory long after this video ends. Next, 1973 Lincoln penny, and we have arrived at the moment this entire video has been building toward, the grand finale, the coin that sits at the very top of today's list, the one that collectors speak about in hushed and reverent tones, the 1973 Lincoln penny, a coin that in its rarest, most extraordinary confirmed form carries an estimated value of a staggering, earth-shattering, almost mythological $29 million, and if your reaction right now is disbelief, if your reaction is shock, if your jaw has literally dropped and you are sitting there wondering how on earth any penny in any condition could possibly be worth $29 million, then you are having exactly the right reaction, because this coin, this specific error coin from the Denver Mint in 1973, represents one of the most extreme examples of accidental numismatic treasure in the history of American coinage, and its story is one of the most breathtaking in the entire world of coin collecting. Let's go back to 1973. The United States was navigating one of the most turbulent periods in its modern history. The Vietnam War was winding toward its painful conclusion, the Watergate scandal was beginning to unravel the Nixon administration, inflation was climbing, and the American public was living through a period of deep uncertainty and social upheaval. Against this backdrop, the Denver Mint was doing what it always does, producing coins, millions and millions of them, the mechanical heartbeat of American commerce continuing regardless of what was happening in the headlines. The 1973 Lincoln cent was struck in enormous quantities, a standard copper alloy coin bearing Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, designed to flow through the American economy as invisibly and efficiently as possible. Nobody was supposed to notice these coins. Nobody was supposed to care about them. They were infrastructure, not art. They were utility, not treasure. Or so everyone thought. Here is what makes the 1973 Lincoln penny in its rarest form so incomprehensibly valuable. In 1973, the United States Mint was in the early stages of experimenting with aluminum planchets as a potential replacement for the copper alloy cents that were becoming increasingly expensive to produce. The price of copper was rising, the cost of producing a 1-cent coin was beginning to approach and in some projections threatened to exceed the face value of the coin itself, and the mint was under pressure to find a solution. Aluminum was the leading candidate, lighter, cheaper, abundant, and the mint actually struck test coins in aluminum that year, coins that were submitted to Congress for evaluation and approval. But here is where the story takes its extraordinary turn. Here is where history gets tangled and a legend is born, because some of those experimental aluminum planchets, and some accounts suggest copper planchets intended for testing against different die configurations, found their way into the production stream in ways that resulted in official-looking 1973 Lincoln cents being struck on entirely wrong compositions, coins that were never supposed to exist in any form that would reach public hands, and yet somehow, in the chaotic, high-volume environment of a federal mint running at maximum capacity, some of them did. The 1973 Lincoln penny struck on an aluminum planchet, or on a dramatically wrong composition planchet, is the stuff of numismatic legend precisely because its existence was never officially sanctioned, never officially acknowledged in the way that normal error coins sometimes are. These are coins that the government made by accident, coins that may have been subject to a recall effort that was never fully successful, coins that could theoretically have legal classification issues depending on how they came to be in private hands, and all of that controversy, all of that history, all of that drama surrounding their very existence is exactly what makes them so extraordinarily, almost incomprehensibly valuable to the collectors who pursue them with a passion that borders on obsession. Think about what it means to hold one of these coins. Think about the weight of history in your hand, not the physical weight, because if it is aluminum it would be notably lighter than a standard cent, and that lightness itself would be one of the identifying characteristics that might alert a careful observer that something is different, something is special, something is wrong in the most gloriously profitable way imaginable. Think about the fact that you would be holding a coin that was never supposed to exist in your hands, a coin that represents a mistake made at the highest levels of federal manufacturing, a mistake that somehow survived decades of circulation or storage to arrive in the present day as a $29 million artifact of American monetary history. The collector market for coins at this value tier operates in a different universe from the everyday numismatic world. We are talking about buyers who have the resources to spend more on a single coin than most people spend on a house, buyers who understand that at this level, a coin is not just a collectible, it is an investment, it is a legacy, it is a piece of history that will appreciate in value for generations to come. And the competition for top-tier specimens of the rarest Lincoln cent errors is fierce, documented, and growing fiercer with every passing year as more wealth flows into the collector market and as the finite supply of genuinely extraordinary coins becomes ever more apparent. Now here is the part that keeps thousands of collectors awake at night, the part that makes this hobby so addictive and so emotionally consuming. The 1973 Lincoln penny in its most valuable form is not safely locked away in a museum where you can never touch it. It is not sitting in a vault at the Smithsonian. It is potentially, possibly, maybe just maybe, sitting in a coin collection that someone inherited and never fully examined. It could be in a batch of old pennies that a family tucked away in a box when someone passed, coins that were saved without any real understanding of what was among them. It could be at the bottom of a jar. It could be in a dealer's inventory, misidentified and underpriced. It could be anywhere that Lincoln pennies go, which is everywhere, which is the homes and storage units and attics and basements of hundreds of millions of American households. So this is the call to action that every serious numismatist will validate. This is the homework that could change your life. Find your 1973 D Lincoln pennies. The D mint mark will be visible just below the date on the obverse, indicating Denver production. Weigh them if you can. A standard copper alloy 1973 D cent weighs 3.1 grams. An aluminum error specimen would weigh dramatically less, closer to 0.9 to 1.0 grams. That difference, that tiny, almost imperceptible difference in weight that you might feel in your hand if you are paying close attention, that is the difference between a 1-cent coin and a $29 million piece of American history. Get a precise scale. Check your coins. Look at them under magnification for any signs of unusual die characteristics, doubling, misalignment, off-center strikes. And if anything seems different, if anything feels off, if your gut tells you that what you are holding is not quite right, take it to a professional grader immediately, because the $29 million 1973 D Lincoln penny is the ultimate proof that the greatest treasure hunts in the world do not require a map, a shovel, or a journey to a distant land. Sometimes they require nothing more than the willingness to look carefully at what has been in front of you all along, to see the extraordinary hiding inside the ordinary, to recognize that the coins we have been spending our entire lives without a second thought might just be the most valuable things we have ever owned. Thank you for watching Coin Hustle USA. Check every coin, trust nothing, and remember, your fortune might already be in your hands.